So Disney sold us that we needed to have a floor-to-ceiling library in our homes complete with a rolling ladder, right? Just like Belle. But they didn't teach us how to build it. Welcome to my 4-part series on building an at-home dream library. In this video, part 1, you're going to see how we built the carcass of this, the rough structure, with our base cabinets, countertop, and upper bookcases, and the lights that are up in the top display box. Part 2, I'll show you how we trim this out. That's when it really gets pretty, the details come on, the doors go in, and it really starts looking spectacular. Part 3 is all about painting, the prep, the paint, building the spray booth, and you'll get to see what color it's going to become. Part 4 is all about the finishing touches, the hardware, the ladder, styling everything, watching it come to life. So you can join me and my husband in our workshop as we use all of these tools and wood to build a beautiful, custom Beauty and the Beast inspired bookshelf. The first step is blue tape. With the design and measurements in hand, I decided to tape everything onto the wall to get a feel for what it would be like in the space. So I set up my laser level and got to taping. Bam! Wham! We decided we really liked it, so we moved on to the next step, which was getting our cut list and planning out how we were going to break down the big plywood sheets. We had to break down the long cuts with a track saw, just because our shop is a little bit smaller. Once those were broken down lengthwise, we were able to set up the table saw to cut them down to size. So we're cutting the side panels for the lower cabinets first, and trimming up everything to make sure it's square. After breaking down that first sheet of plywood, we were ready for our next one. We talked through the layout of how we could optimize usage of this piece. So we cut off one of the lengths and then cut down our back pieces for our lower cabinets. We cut these just slightly bigger so that we could rip the other side to make sure that they were totally square. We quickly just got an assembly of this to see if all of our pieces were correct, and when they were, we marked everything for our biscuits. We used the biscuit joiner for alignment, and then for actually holding this together, we used pocket screws. I sanded the interiors of these cabinets because they're not going to get paint on the inside. These are the biscuits that we used. And we just put everything in dry to give it another test fit to make sure that everything aligned properly with the biscuits. When it did, we took it apart and glued everything up. So we put glue in all of the biscuit holes. For this front support, we just put it in place with pocket screws as well. The back support, I put on some edge banding because from the interior of the cabinet we'll see that, and I didn't want to see the raw edge of plywood. Then we put these adjustable feet onto the cabinet, which will be nice for any little differences when we're putting this in place on the concrete slab. We plan on having a nailer board on the front of this for the face frame, so I set back the feet the thickness of the plywood. I marked the holes and put a little pilot hole for the screws. Once they were all in, we put the feet in and the cabinet is finished. And I just took my little spacer jig and made sure everything sat flush. With the lower cabinets done, I was ready to prep some of the electrical stuff for my husband. So I cut where I wanted the outlet to be inside the cabinet, which was just up a little bit. And then I put in an adjustable depth outlet box. And also did that for the slider or for the dimmer switch that we're going to be using for the display lights. With this screw, you can adjust the depth of this box with the bracket. Now I used a fishing line to go down the wall to be able to pull a Romex cord up. I had to take a little notch out of one piece of what I ran into. But once I did that, I pulled up the Romex through the wall and my husband got to wiring everything up. Now we just discussed how we wanted to actually put these cabinets together. And we decided to just vertically stack these two to screw them in. And then the next cabinet, we just used clamps. So we clamped them flush at the front, and then I marked where I wanted the screws to go and John put them in. Here we're going to be setting the cabinet back against the wall and leveling everything out, side to side, front to back, and making sure all of the feet of the cabinet are firmly against the ground. And we just screw those feet until they touch. Then I transferred the placement of the outlet box onto the back of the cabinet and cut out the hole. And here I'm just marking where all of the studs are so we can attach this cabinet to the wall. And before doing that, we shimmed up everything because walls are not perfectly plumb and we wanted our cabinet to sit correctly. So we shimmed that out and got started on the countertop, which we used 2 pieces of plywood glued together to create an 1.5-inch countertop. And then we just took some screws and screwed those together to function as clamps. We trimmed up the sides of the countertop so that the wood is perfectly even and cut it to size. And here we just brought it out just to test if everything sat well and we liked it. So then we took it back into the shop and drilled holes in our new countertop. With these templates that we made with this sample here, we wanted to create openings in each cabinet box for a lamp cord to go through, to where we can access that outlet that's down below. So we took the router and used this template and just routed as far as that piece would go down. And then took a round over bit and just rounded over the edges of that so that they're not sharp. So that's what it looks like from the bottom, and it feels nice and smooth. We flipped it over and used a flush trim router bit to get the rest of the material out of each section. Then we took the first template, marked the center points on that, and took a slightly larger template that we used. Got that into place, and then routed with that to the depth of 1/4 of an inch plywood scrap. These plywood pieces will sit within there and we can cut a little notch out of them, and they will get painted the same as the countertop and mostly just blend in until you might need to use them for putting a cord through. And our next step was to build the upper bookshelves. So here we're just cutting out our long side panels, cutting those to their correct height. And then we got to marking. So we marked everything on these cabinets. We did all of the shelves of where they would be on both the back and the sides. That way we could come through and mark where all of our domino holes would be, because we decided to do fixed shelving. So every domino marking is done with a measurement on both the shelves and the back and the sides. So we just spent a lot of time putting a ton of pencil marks all over this cabinet. We also drew lines on the back side of where the shelves would be and got to doing all of our dominoes. This part flew so quickly. It's such an excellent machine. This little jig here just sets the domino 1/4 of an inch in from the back to where we have 1/4 of an inch gap behind the cabinet when the back is installed. All sides and tops and shelves all have dominoes. We did 2 dominoes on the sides and 3 on the back. Here we're putting in domino holes on the top that connect to the back of the cabinet. And then instead of using clamps, we're going to be using pocket screws to hold it together after we glue it. So all along the back, we put pocket screws, and then we were able to put our domino pieces into the holes for an assembly. We prepared the shelves first by putting all the dominoes into the shelf. We put the top on and worked our way down with the shelves. So all of these pieces are just held together with a tight-fitting domino and glue up to this point. We were working quickly to where our glue wasn't dry. Then we got the side. We glued those dominoes into the side of the cabinet and put glue onto the side panel. Aligned that piece and tapped it in with a mallet from top to bottom. Once that was together, instead of clamping, this is where we put all of those pocket screws in, and then we drilled into that line on the back that was the center of the shelf and put screws. And that sucked all of those pieces of wood together and made it ultra secure. Then we repeated the same process on the other side, putting our dominoes into the cabinet, putting glue on, and then setting that side panel in. Once this piece is in place, then I drilled pilot holes and we put the pocket screws in and screws to pull those 2 pieces together. And the cabinets were assembled. I didn't video this, but we did put a hole in the top of the cabinet for our lights. There's just 1 light per section in the top of the cabinet. With this centered and plumb, I cut custom shims that the cabinet will sit back against. We removed the cabinet and then put dominoes into the countertop and the cabinet. We glued our little dominoes into the cabinet on this one, into the counter, and lifted it into place, dropping it down and keeping it nice and secure with those dominoes. To secure them together, we clamped the bookcases, drilled a pilot hole, and countersunk screws that will get covered with wood filler. Then we attached the cabinets to the wall into the studs. And finally, my husband wired up the lights. He put them all going to a junction box so they're in parallel and not in series. So if one light goes out, not all of them will go out. Once everything was all wired up and secured, we were finished with this stage of getting the rough structure complete. The lights that we picked are LED. They adjust to 5 different color temperatures and they just pop up into place. Now for such an exciting moment, we get to test the lights. Ooh, they're so pretty. I was just saying, I cannot wait to display stuff up there. It looks so good, doesn't it? If you want to follow along with this series, click subscribe. And as always, go get creative and make something you love. I'll see you soon. You stayed all the way to this point in the video, so I think you've earned yourself a little sneak peek of the trim.